All right, good morning and welcome to the WoezorTV and the dialogue right here with me, Randy Ahadzi. Remember, the dialogue comes your way every Friday from 8:30 a.m. to 10 a.m. And then a lot of concentration is on the 2026 FIFA World Cup. But back here in Ghana, a lot has been happening with issues on current affairs from the courts to issues on the economy. We are here to deliver all of that for you. To update you on what you need to know as well. In the court or on our table for discussion this morning, we take a look at the latest update from the case hanging around Chairman Wontumi, as we understand that he is seeking for a plea bargain. What does that really mean? Is that a substitute for justice? Many have asked that particular question. Is he a way for the politician to just use or abuse the system and go scot-free? Does that really favor just a section of the populace? How about the larger number of the people? We delve deeper into it and find out what legal terms that really mean as well. And what are this, some of the repercussions if indeed they uphold some of these demands that he is making as well. The second thing for us to take a look at has to do with Ghana's economy, with the latest report from the African Development Bank projecting a GDP growth of 5%, but with some risk factors. What are they, and how does these gains become some sustainable growth that the economy really needs? We'll speak to some economists on this particular one. So brace up and join the conversation on all our social media platforms. Feel free to drop your messages under any of the comments, and then, of course, I'll read them out loud and clear. My name is Randy Ahadzi. This is The Dialogue. My guests are very much ready for the conversation this morning. We'll take a breather when I return. I'll introduce them, and then we can set the ball for the discussion. Stay with me. There is more after the break.
The world's biggest football festival is here, and Ghana is watching together. This June, the Ghana TV Consortium brings you the FIFA World Cup 2026 live and free to air on GTV, Joy Prime, GTV Sports Plus, Adum TV, WoezorTV, Metro TV, UTV, Original TV, Garden City TV, Obono TV, GH1 TV, Ago TV, Onya TV, TV3, Max TV, and Sporty TV. 3 host countries, 48 teams, 1 unforgettable tournament. Follow every moment of the Ghana Black Stars journey, every rivalry, every goal, and every celebration. Enjoy crystal clear high-definition broadcast with expert local analysis and the passion only Ghanaian broadcasters can deliver. From the opening whistle to the crowning of champions, your football home is right here. The FIFA World Cup 2026. One nation, one consortium. Ghana TV Consortium, bringing you the best of the World Cup. Brought to you by Sportybet, Star Oil, MTN, Pepsodent, Kivo, Polytech, Lavance Tomato Mix, and Heaven Insecticide Spray.
Alright, so welcome back. Many thanks for still staying with us right here on WoezorTV. Remember, this is the dialogue, and as I intimated, 2 key things for us to take a look at. Whilst others are concentrating on football, indeed, we ought to know exactly what's happening here in Ghana. Yesterday, we had a report with regards to the case hanging around the Ashanti Regional Chairman of the New Patriotic Party, Chairman Wontumi, in the Exim Bank alleged loan fraud case. there is a latest update. I'll set the tone for that discussion pretty shortly. But we'll also be talking about the economy, Ghana's economy, the latest indicators and also the latest updates or reports channeled by the AFDB, that's the African Development Bank, indicating that Ghana's GDP growth will hit 5%, but of course with some risk factors. We'll delve into that as well. Hopefully, as I intimated, we'll be speaking to some economists on this particular one. But in studio with me this morning, it's been a while, lawyer Philemon La, a pioneer of this show as well. If you recall, some 3-4 years ago, how we started. He's here with us this morning. Hopefully, Kamaldeen Ibrahim, a member of the New Patriotic Party communications team, will be joining us right here in studio as well. Philemon, good morning.
Good morning, Randy.
You're looking good.
You look better.
How are you doing?
By God's grace, all is good.
It's been a while.
Yes.
How is work and every other thing?
Oh, everything is okay. I mean, we're in a country that is receiving relative stability. The economy is doing well. Interest rates have fallen significantly. The cost of doing business has reduced greatly. The exchange rate has significantly gone down, and the economy of Ghana is back on track. I mean, every day you go out and you see the hustle of young people in this country, and they're able to do that because there's a thriving economy, the basis on which they're able to put in a decent effort. And when this continues, I believe that there will be national stability. So, by the grace of God, things are fine. Not just for me, not just for my family, but I mean for the generality of the people of this country, and that's what's most important.
But I also report that, I mean, that indicates that the goodwill Ghanaians gave your government, I mean, before, I mean, when they took over, has dwindled a little bit. I don't know if you saw that as well.
I'm not sure what that goodwill, what that report is, but the fact of the matter is that the resolve of this government remains strong.
Okay.
The commitment at ensuring that the lives of the people of this country is bettered remains unhindered. Of course, in every government, it is possible that there may be a few hitches here and there, and this government is not isolated from a few challenges. Yes, challenges come up, but what's very important is that there's a resolve and a commitment of this government at ensuring that there's integrity in government. I remember very recently the Secretary to the President issued a statement about the thing about awards. That's listening to the cry of the people. You feel the pulse of the country and you react. This is a government that realizes that at the core of leadership should be example. So the example has been set, and that example is that there must be integrity in government, there must be commitment and dedication to the cause of the mass of the people of this country. So that commitment remains unhindered.
Okay, well, we'll get back to that because it forms part of our conversation this morning, and I brought you in because of the legal implications of what we are hearing from the court with regards to what Chairman Wontumi is asking. But before then, I mean, the World Cup has started. I mean, it was live on WoezorTV.
Yeah.
I think I need to do a little bit of clarification. People were asking how come we didn't show the game yesterday. The fact is that the game is on DTT. Right, free to air channel. So if those guys who have the the decoders and what have you, that's a satellite channel. So FIFA is out with strict rules and regulations on this particular World Cup. So you need to just watch crystal clear picture quality on the DTT, and that's free to air channel. So we are on. We showed the game yesterday. We did expert analysis in studio. It's going to continue throughout today till the last game is played as well. By your general overview of the game.
Oh, the game was tough. I watched it and
you supported Mexico or South Africa?
Now that's the political question. I mean, a lot of Africans, I dare say, because I have monitored social media, I saw people's posts, and it appears all of Africa is against South Africa. Well, it's understandable because in the spirit of Pan-Africanism, would have expected that South Africa would not have done what they are doing now. But, well, I believe that I would follow the example of President Mahama. And President Mahama has said that Ghana will not pay evil for evil. President Mahama has said that even though South Africans are unjustly, unduly, unfairly repatriating and then causing harm against other Africans, that will not be repeated in Ghana. So I follow on that example. And I say that it was a good match. South Africa fought back well, but I think that the best team won. One thing I realized is that the South Africans went into the game very demotivated. Okay. Because in an 80,000 filled stadium, I think about 79,000 of the spectators supported Mexico.
Yeah.
You get the point? Yeah. So, I mean, and football also deals with emotions. It deals with home support. That's how come the teams are able to perform better if they are playing in their home stadium than rather playing in an away stadium. So I think that affected the South Africans And maybe the South African government should use this as an opportunity to feel the pulse of Africa and realize that action, the conduct by its citizens, which has been left unsupervised, is something they really should take very, because in the spirit of Pan-Africanism, in the spirit of brotherliness, in the spirit of togetherness, South Africa should rein in their rogue elements.
I think the goalkeeper even mentioned it that, I mean, back then you have African supports their own, but in this particular World Cup,
Shabala, let's go.
I mean, so yesterday was exactly 16 years, if yes, that he scored that goal.
Shabalala scored a very fantastic goal, which happened to have been their only goal in that World Cup. We hope that South Africans will. Well, I wish them the best. I don't wish them evil. I wish them the best. And I think that yesterday the best team won. The best team won.
Okay, very well. Philemon, thank you so much. And as I intimated, Kamaldeen Abdullahi Ibrahim Kamaldeen is a member of the New Patriotic Party. He will also join us pretty shortly this morning. But let's delve quickly into the main issue as we take a look at the breakdown to it. We are fully aware that the Ashanti Regional Chairman of the New Patriotic Party, Bernard Entry Bosiakwa, popularly known as Chairman Wontumi, has requested for a plea bargain in the Exim Bank alleged loan fraud case before the Accra High Court. Now, let me just give you a background to all that you need to know as far as this issue on Chairman Wontumi is concerned. It is clear that the chairman, known as Wontumi, has been hauled before the court for the offenses of defrauding by false pretense, causing financial loss to a public body, money laundering, and also authoring a forged document in relation to fraudulently acquiring a 14.3 million Ghana cedis loan using his farming company from the Ghana Export-Import Bank between 2018 and 2022. Now, further checks revealed that the charge sheet filed by the Attorney General's Department prosecutors alleged that Bernard Entry Bosiakwa and Thomas Entry Bosiakwa in 2018 obtained 14,302,000 from Exim Bank by false pretenses. The prosecution further alleges that Chairman Wontumi used a forged receipt, knowing it was not genuine, to obtain an additional 4 million Ghana cedis from the bank. It is also clear, and we have picked that the court document states that the alleged forged receipt was presented to officials of Exim Bank as proof of payment in support of the transaction. Now, under the money laundering charge, prosecutors allege that between 2018 and 2022, Chairman Wontumi took possession of part of the 14.302 million received by Wontumi Farms Limited, while allegedly knowing the funds had been acquired through fraudulent means. That is so clear, and it's been stated in there. The further, more details that we picked has it that the prosecution also accuses Chairman Wontumi as well as Thomas Entry Bosiakwa and Wontumi Farms Limited of intentionally causing financial loss exceeding 30 million Ghana cedis to Exim Bank in the course of the business. But we are back to the question. If we are looking out for plea bargain, what does the laws of Ghana say? You look at the constitution, what exactly does it say? What is this whole plea bargain about? Is it a substitute for justice? It's a question people are asking, and that's why Philemon is here. But let me welcome Kamaldeen. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Good to have you, despite the late hustle and the traffic.
Yeah, the traffic in town is unbearable.
Very well.
But finally, I've made it. At least 10 minutes late is...
We'll manage.
We'll manage it.
Thank you. Well, I asked Philemon about the World Cup. Maybe you can have a bite on it quickly. You watched the games yesterday.
Well, yeah, yesterday I couldn't have a full view of the World Cup. But with the current stance of South Africa, I don't want to believe that many African countries are supporting them now compared to 2010. I think so. Yeah, when my brother talked about the Chabala's goal, which is one of the goals. This British commentator, is it Peter Drury or something like that? I saw one of his videos saying that it's one of the goals he made commentary on, and he was till at the time of the video, he was saying that it's one of the things he's relived for long. But yesterday it was like almost all of us praying that South Africa be scored. And you see, there's a video I watched just this morning where they made fun of it that someone said they should go and support South Africa, and then the other person said, no, supporting South Africa, they will say they've taken their jobs away from
So
them.
we can't even support them.
So now we can't even support them, so that we wouldn't take their jobs away from them. So this time around, I don't think South Africa will enjoy that support. Got from fellow African countries or blacks across, I even believe across the world. Because for you to be targeting your own fellow blacks, when the apartheid in your country today, it's not done by blacks. So I don't see myself supporting South Africa in this tournament. No, I just, and most especially Ghana too is there. So that's their headache.
Very well. Council, let me get to you on this main topic now.
Yeah, bro.
What exactly is the plea bargain? You look at it even from the constitution of what Ghanaian law says. Maybe for a general assessment and for the layman out there, what does it mean?
Okay. Very well. Thank you very much. First of all, you know that there's a constitutional guarantee of innocence until proven guilty. Yeah. That is established.
Yeah.
Anyone that is accused of any crime reserves the right to go through a laid-down procedure. And that procedure is established in something we call the Criminal and Other Offences Procedure Act, Act 30. So if you would realize, we have something called substantive law, we have something called procedural law. So while substantive law may say A, B, and C is what you have broken, there's a procedure for which the system must take you through to establish whether or not you are guilty. So that procedure is established in Act 30, which is the Criminal Procedure Act.
Okay.
Now, under the plea bargaining arrangement, plea bargaining basically means that an accused person who ordinarily is supposed to go through a procedure as spelled out in the Criminal Procedure Act, Act 30, chooses to relinquish that right that he reserves. And that's because he feels that he wants to admit guilt. So at the core of plea bargaining is that you are admitting guilt.
Okay. Okay.
You are telling the court that I am guilty. And because I am guilty, I know that ordinarily to establish my guilt, I'm supposed to have been taken through a procedure subsequent to which my guilt will be established. But I'm saying that halt that procedure because I have said I am guilty. And because I am guilty, I want to negotiate. And that negotiation is meant to achieve a number of things. The first of them is that perhaps a potential drop of the charge. So if you're charged with, say, X crime, an effect of a plea agreement is that the charge could be dropped. The charge could also be lessened. So if you're supposed to have been charged on something weightier, the charge can be lessened for you. That is the effect. But I say the overall effect of plea bargaining is that you want to reduce the length in litigation, that you want to say that you are guilty already. In basic terms, that's what I can say about what a plea arrangement is. I can also say that there were small snippets of it existing in the original version of Act 30, because when you look at Section 239 of Act 30, you look at the Courts Act, you look at the Special Prosecutors Act, provisions have been made in this particular, all these acts, for small versions of plea bargaining. But essentially, with the subsequent amendments in 2022, I believe, there's now a new provision that allows for any accused person, irrespective of your rank and status in society. But I must emphasize that to the extent that anyone has altered to choose plea bargaining, it establishes the person's guilt.
I'll come back to the question of whether or not that's a substitute for justice. If indeed the justice we are all calling for will be meted out. Because if I have pleaded I've pleaded guilty, it means that yes, I have done it, but the punishment that ought to be given to me is going to be lesser or not. Let me come back to Kamal on this particular one. Is that the understanding you have on this topic?
Well, first and foremost, because you confronted me with sports issues, so I couldn't get the chance to greet certain people.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. Let me start by extending my greetings to my flag bearer, Alhaji Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, and then my boss, to Honorable Titus Glover. I'm the deputy spokesperson for his campaign bid for the national organizer position. Okay. We are just treating party members to be cautious of the times we are in. When you are going for contests, this the time people will begin to disseminate certain information that are not true, and we've started seeing some of these kinds coming out, and we are confronting it and then addressing it whichever lies the opponent is trying to peddle. We will try as much as possible to counter it, because he stands in a pole position to winning the national organizer position. So definitely he's the main target that the opponent must try to do whatever to smear his campaign, so that we can assure people that to be wary about such misinformation. He's a competent communicator. People don't have issues with honorable titles the way he speaks. For over 2 decades he's been on TV and radio. People have never for once come against him to say that he's spoken in a manner that's unbefitting of him. All right, so you see, I'm not a lawyer, neither am I in the law school. I'm a lay person, a communicator, so I wouldn't pretend as if I know too much. But at least I also listened to the lawyer who filed for the plea bargain. And per the interview I listened to, the one hosting the interview himself is a lawyer, and he didn't disagree with it. For plea bargain, just as he said, no, the fact that you have introduced or you've filed for a plea bargain is saying that you don't want perhaps the trial to continue. It should be discontinued at a certain point. But what the lawyer also said was that initiating a plea bargain does not make you constitute guilt, because when you institute or initiate the process, you go for terms, negotiations. That is when the terms will kick in. The Attorney General has the right to accept it, or the prosecutor has the right to accept it or reject it. That also is part of it, because it's the Attorney General who is prosecuting this case on behalf of the state. So the fact that Wuntumi's lawyer has initiated that plea bargain doesn't mean automatically he's guilty. When they go and then the terms and conditions that will be put before him by the Attorney General, that can let Wuntumi and his lawyer says, okay, we agree, or no, then let's go back to the court. So we shouldn't just make it seem as if suddenly Wuntumi is guilty. And that has been the narrative since yesterday, that when you follow social media, you hear some of the NDC communicators say he's guilty, he's now running away from just. But if plea bargain automatically tells that you are guilty, then indirectly they are now telling us that Dr. Dufo was guilty, Opuni was guilty, because they filed, the Attorney General filed nolle prosequa on their case, meaning the state is uninterested. Now, and for you to, let me digress a bit to the nolle prosequa issue. When the state filed nolle prosequa in the case of Dr. Dufo, what did the state say? We've agreed with him to pay 60% and keep 40%. Now, if Dr. Dufo also accepted, accepting means you are also agreeing to the Attorney General that, okay, I also agree that
the explanation that they are giving.
Yeah, because if
what plea bargain means.
Yeah, because if the Attorney General is filing for nolle prosequa in my case, and I feel like, no, I want the case to go to the full hog. Why not? Why would I accept? Because if Dr. Dufo and Opuni were so much convinced that no, there's no case against them, they would have asked the Attorney General that though they are uninterested, let the case go to the full trial. Just as Chachu did some time back when former President Kufuor was giving him amnesty, this presidential pardon. He refused and took the case to the full hog. Finally, he became victorious. But the fact that someone admits to something means the person himself also accepts to a certain terms of condition. And that is where I strongly disagree with the lawyer of Chairman Wuntumi. Well, he's, just as he said, he's in there, and maybe Wuntumi says perhaps he wants his freedom so that he can continue with his business. You see, when you put this notion out there, it means you are telling the general populace that perhaps there's something your client is running away from. And I'm unhappy with it. But it is what it is. Maybe when they go and the terms and conditions are okay for Chairman Wuntumi, and he thinks he will go by that terms and conditions, he's in the trial. So I cannot come and sit here and try to play as if I feel more than he's involved in, because the fact that he's even going to courts, answering to charges and other things, distracts his campaign that he's doing. And sometimes in politics too, people are beginning even to use that against him, that he's standing trial, there are 50-50 chances, can be A, it can be B. So in that case, definitely people wouldn't want to gamble when it comes to voting for someone who wants to be a chairman. So I believe he will want to do something that will grant him peace of mind. So I will leave it to his lawyers, and then I say, because I sit down as a layman and ask myself, if the person has gone in for a loan at the bank, he's not stolen it, and there are fraudulent, according to the prosecution, there are fraudulent documents he added. Then I will want to find out, didn't the bank see this fraudulent document? Didn't the board go through, because normally for loans to be approved, you have board sittings, they will go through some of these things before approving. Didn't the board see? And I hope this Exim Bank also have their lawyers who sometimes help them go through some of these things. So I'll really be shocked that all these things didn't catch their eye and it went through. You get it? So I would have loved that in court, if Wontumi is so much convinced that no, I didn't produce any fake document. Because now if you are accepting plea bargain, it means you are telling even common people like us that perhaps what the Attorney General or the prosecution is saying might be true. You get
and
it?
Exactly what Philemon said from the beginning.
Yeah, it might be. You know, conspiracy theories will begin to emerge. And that one now you don't have control over because you have accepted it. But if you allow it to go and then the Attorney General or the prosecution is unable to adduce any evidence in court, then people get to know that, oh, perhaps they had wanted to do witch hunting in this case. So that's why, as I was coming, I was contemplating on this issue. Why plea bargain at this time, if you've allowed the case to travel to this extent? But let's also kind of bring some distinction that there are cases Wontumi is facing. This is one of it. So it's not looking like Wontumi has surrendered in all the cases because that's a narrative out there. He's not surrendered. I think there is a Samurai Boy or something case is there, and then this Exim Bank to one is there. So it's the Exim Bank. So to throw in plea bargain here, I don't think it's the best. I believe, and the way people are calling that perhaps if he can change his counsel, I'll equally call for that. If he can, he should change his counsel and then let the case travel to the full length of it, so that he will come out clean. Other than that, forever it will be a tag on him that really he submitted and then had to go for plea bargain. And finally, perhaps if the Attorney General now accepts they accept the terms and conditions put before them, there's nothing you come out there to explain again that people will buy into because you've accepted it.
Okay, now Philemon, let me bring you back in. I asked that, is this no more like a substitute for justice, what we are calling for? Because you are guilty, you have agreed that you are guilty. Why do we reduce your sentence or your punishment? Why? Because you have agreed that you are guilty?
Okay, let me use a minute to just help my brother. I mean, he's been honest enough to admit that he is a lay person. So I'd advise that you be sure what the law is before you want to argue it out. I mean, in your own presentation, you have admitted that you don't think that Wontumi should have entered a plea bargain. That suggests the fact that the fact of the matter, under the law, by agreeing to go to a plea bargain, it is you throwing away, setting aside the trial process, which the law guarantees for you. And the trial process is what is supposed to give you a certain fairness. And that's because the law is presuming you are innocent. By accepting to go or accept plea bargaining, they are admitting guilt. That is the position of the law. You have said that the very lawyer who was the basis on which you think, you think that he's not guilty. You are asking for him to be fired. That's because you think that he's not doing a good. But the guy is doing his job. And his job is that if you feel that your client is compromised, what your client has done breaches the law, the best for you is to try to save. And this from a legal perspective. But the point is that plea bargaining, I said, achieves a number of effects. The first of them is that they can withdraw the charge against you. They could. I'm not saying that's what's happening in this case. They could also lessen the charge. Also, it's meant for there to be something we call restitution. Restitution because if someone is a victim of your action, and therefore you are supposed to go to jail without even the person receiving whatever he has been deprived of, that may not be fair. So the law is meant to help the victim get some financial, physical, whatever form of compensation, or if you like restitution, from the accused. So all of these are the reasons why a plea bargaining law was established. It was established by your government. You know that it was passed by your parliament, by your government, when you're in power. But the overall thing I want to talk about here is that the judicial system in Ghana is constrained by a number of factors. Factors including very congested prisons. Factors including very limited resources available for the feeding and general welfare of prisoners. That's why we should be thanking President Mahama, because President Mahama's investment and the overall investment of the NDC government when it comes to judicial justice reform has been unmatched in this republic. No government in this country has invested at ensuring that prisoners and the overall justice system in this country benefits. You look at the court complex, the High Court complex, built by the NDC government. You look at Akuse Prison, built by the NDC government. You look at all of the reforms of the Prison Council under the chairmanship of Reverend Wengam. All of that have been done by the NDC government. But I realize that there's a challenge, and that challenge is to the effect that the prisoners are so many and the facilities are so less. So plea bargaining, to whose benefit will it be if we go into plea bargaining? It should be the state and not the individual. For anyone that accepts to go under plea bargaining, it is because either you are going to give very valuable information to the state, the basis on which the state can use to arrest other people. I get the point. Even in the case of Wontumi, one of his co-accused has chosen to be a witness for the Republic. What's my brother called? Nuruddin or something? Kamaldeen. Assuming Kamaldeen is accused of, maybe he's caught with cocaine. This is hypothetical. Kamaldeen is caught with cocaine. The government, or let me say the Attorney General, if Kamaldeen wants to go into a plea bargaining arrangement with the Attorney General could say, Kamaldeen, we could drop the charges against you if you could tell us those you work with. So perhaps Kamaldeen will mention Mr. A, Mr. B, Mr. C. Mr. E is the one that gave it to me. Mr. F is the one that asked me to go and pick it up from Jolo. Basis on which the Attorney General may go into an arrangement with you and give you a lesser punishment.
But that's unfair.
Why is it unfair?
Because if indeed the scenario are given, Kamaldeen is also guilty, just as the supplier.
I spoke about possession.
Okay.
So possession is a lesser offense. So he was just saying, take this, go and give it to somebody. He doesn't even know what it is. It's just an envelope. Kamal, this is an envelope. Go and give it to Randy.
Okay.
But under the law, possession, if whether or not you know what is inside or not, it's also an offense. But because we want to break that, and I mean, it's a tactic used globally. The FBI, the CIA, I mean, the FBI and other global intelligence agencies, they all use that as a basis on which to crack down on crime. So I think that I'd call it a misconception, is that the plea bargaining law is meant to protect a certain category of society.
Is that not true?
That is
because
not correct.
We hardly hear this with regards to even the ordinary people.
From a legal perspective, the plea bargaining law is available for every citizen of this country, irrespective of your status, your class. There are 3 categories of people who can activate plea bargaining. Maybe legal education is what is not available for people to know. Otherwise, anybody who is accused, anybody who is accused can request for plea bargaining.
Of any crime?
Okay, I'll come to the any crime, not any crime. Not any crime. Anybody can request for plea bargaining, that's one. The lawyer of an accused person can also request for plea bargaining. And the prosecutor in the case can also request for plea bargaining. So 3 categories of persons. The court itself will not be involved in the negotiation. When you look at section 162 of the Act, it spells 165, I think. It spells out the various categories of offenses which are not captured under plea bargaining. If you are accused of rape, you cannot go for plea bargaining. If you are accused of defilement, you cannot. Murder, attempted murder, robbery, offenses relating to elections, genocide, treason, and any other offense whose punishment is death.
Okay.
There are a number of offenses under the criminal code whose punishment is death. So if you are charged under any of those offenses or crimes, you cannot enter plea bargaining. So it's just meant for a certain category, but very serious offenses like robbery and stuff like that are not captured under the plea management act. So generally, I think that the misconception that it is meant only for the political class or for rich men like Randy is not correct. It's not for only.
But counsel, what factors would the prosecutors or the courts look out for before even agreeing to this plea bargain?
So it's a negotiation. So depending on the peculiarities of the case, then they will negotiate. And the Attorney General they can choose not to agree if they feel that the terms of the negotiation are not good enough. So in the case of Wontumi, how much? About 4 million or so is what he's been accused of. So maybe the Attorney General will do a calculation of that 4 million and whatever interest would have accrued on it over the period that he's fraudulently, because of that allegation, fraudulently, taking the money from Exim Bank and then ask him to pay it rather than 4 million, maybe he should pay 10 million. Or maybe 20 million. And remember, and he couldn't pay, so it didn't happen. The plea bargain didn't happen. Because what he volunteered to pay, the state refused to accept that. So Chairman Wontumi in this particular case has first of all established his guilt. He has established his guilt. That barefaced lie by members of the NPP to the effect that, oh, nobody in the NPP is corrupt, nobody in the NPP is corrupt, and that shows us one person who has been corrupt, who has been convicted, and that, of course, to me, we don't know what the court would say, whether or not the court will convict him, but by accepting to go under a plea bargaining arrangement, for which the NPP communicator here has even admitted, it speaks to the fact that Chairman to me has admitted some guilt in this particular. So basically, that is the crux of. But there's also something, there's you can go into a plea bargaining under a number of factors which the Attorney General may come to realize. And when they realize that you entered under misrepresentation or that there was a fraud, you lied to the Attorney General on a number of things to make the Attorney General agree to give you a plea bargain. And they find out subsequently it can be reversed. And those factors are under section.
And does that also come with another set of punishments?
No, so you go through, they'll take you back to trial. They'll take you back to trial. So fraud, misrepresentation, undue influence, mistake, duress, where there's uncertainty or illegality, under any of these ones, you lead the Attorney General under any of these ones for them to believe that truly there was a basis for there to be a plea bargain, and they find out eventually that there was no basis. They'll take you back. It's also very important to say that the plea bargaining can be entered into at any point before judgment.
Okay.
At any point during the process before judgment is given.
Would that not be misconstrued to be a means of delaying the process? Because if judgment is set to be on 3rd July or 4th July, then a week to 3rd July or 4th July, I decide to enter into a plea bargain. That would take the process to a different level altogether.
No, but a plea bargain is not infinite.
Okay.
It's not infinite. You can't say because you are negotiating a certain plea arrangement, it's going to be done in perpetuity and therefore you evade justice. You cannot. It's for a finite amount. I believe 30 days or so.
Okay.
I can confirm that. Okay. But it's for a finite amount of time based on which you must negotiate. If there's no agreement, then the process would continue. But prima facie, by you agreeing to go to plea bargaining, it suggests that you have admitted guilt.
But I think in his statement he made some comments which are not true.
Okay.
I didn't sit here to say that Wontumi is guilty. I told you that even according to his lawyer, he said filing for a plea bargain, plea bargain, doesn't constitute guilt. I said this, and I said that from the filing, it will now initiate or trigger the terms and conditions, the process of negotiation. Now, in the same plea bargain, he agrees that he will agree with me that charges can be dropped. If charges are dropped, what is the guilt then? So the fact that you are a legal practitioner doesn't mean at least we also don't read or we don't reason. Though all the things I said, you only misconstrue. I said I feel that Wontumi should have allowed this process to go on. That's my personal conviction.
Beyond the partisanship to this whole conversation on plea bargain, do you think it's actually a bottleneck in tackling issues of graft?
Well, you see, if you say we can't detach politics from this, because in his statement, as a legal practitioner, I least expected him that he would say that, but maybe politics has consumed him. In that, he said the MPP people say that show us one person that has been prosecuted, and he's now using something that is inconclusive to mean that the person is already guilty. You should know, per the law, every person is presumed innocent. Is that not it? Yeah. Until the person is found guilty. So if you have thrown this aside as a legal practitioner, and then you are saying somebody has filed for a plea bargain, immediately constitute guilt, I'll be shocked. Because you also agree that part of the plea bargain, they can go and then both of them will disagree with each other, and they have to end up in court again. So why are you jumping the gun? Just relax, my brother. You see, this plea bargain is kind of popular because mostly it involves politicians or people who have served. You get it? And mostly the Attorney General is there to act on behalf of the state. So normally cases that has to do with the states, the Attorney General definitely have to step in. And that's why sometimes some of these high profile cases will get to here, because somebody like Wontumi definitely is a high profile. Perhaps as we see it, I don't have the record, but there may be an ordinary Ghanaian who may have applied for a plea bargain, but because it's not in the public domain, you and I wouldn't get to hear. So it's normally put it out there, it's out there as okay because it's this political actor, because that's what we are all following. We are discussing because it's Wontumi. Perhaps if it were to be some Kofi somewhere, we wouldn't be discussing, unless that thing kind of catches public eye or national attention, that is when we discuss. I don't want to believe that the law, ever since it was passed, has only been used by people of political class. Maybe when you go down there in some of the courts or people who report to it, they may be able to come out with names. And that is where sometimes I believe, if it is the office of the Attorney General or whoever, they should be able to be furnishing us with things like this, so that it doesn't look like we make certain laws just to favor certain class of people. Other than that, that's where the ordinary Ghanaian will sit somewhere and say, okay, this person did this, and he's not been given that opportunity. You see, there are people who don't even know that the plea bargain agreement applies to everybody. Yeah. They think it's for the political class. Yeah. So if somebody, perhaps a circle or something, has committed an offense, how many of the council will tell them that enter into a plea bargain? You get it? Yeah. In some cases, we even get to hear that people are even told by their council to accept guilt so that the trial will just end quickly. We've heard all this kind of statements out there as to whether it's true or not. It happens. And you see, all that I'm surprised is that a government that believes in chasing 4 million, yet finds it prudent to file a nolli prosequa to do away with 5 billion. Mm-hmm. Isn't that shocking? That you are interested in chasing, you're sitting here, that they'll sit and calculate all the interest. You allow someone to take 40% of 5 billion and go and sit home. That is okay for you. Woundumi's trial, about $150 million in trial. You file nolli prosequa, that you are uninterested. Sagleme project, look at the quantum of amount involved. You filed nolli prosequa. Granted, I'm playing the devil's advocate. I'm not saying, granted Woundumi is even guilty. How much is it? Compared to what you have filed nolli prosequa. Mm-hmm. Have you sat on TV to disagree with the Attorney General for filing nolli prosequa? It's in the law. I'm coming. No. But starting from, it's already laid a bad precedent. Look at the amount of money he has filed for nolli prosequa. The state has lost. We are chasing 4 million. When you have allowed our millions of cedis or dollars to go down the drain. It's just, they want to just make political capital out of all these things. That's all. The Attorney General, after 1.5 years in office, has not lived up to the billing. So what do I do to make my people feel like, okay, I'm doing something? That's all. That's why he comes to tell us. The last time I saw certain flyers they did, number of oral cases in court, and I said, who is chasing you to do all this? It's because you are disappointing your people, and you want to update them to let them feel, because of their uneasiness, you want to calm them down and let them know that you've done nothing. So that's why I'm saying that I'm really not happy with the filing of this thing. Because now, just as I said, when the conspiracy theories begin, you can't control it. You cannot shape the narrative because you have thrown it out there. So I will still insist, if I get the medium to tell Chama to look for another council to push this through, I will advise that he does that. Okay.
Council, we should wind up on this quickly because you ought to also run out. Yeah. Because now the argument others raised, and again, probably to rehash that point, is that the precedent is that this will make way for a class of the people to escape justice. In the sense that, yes, I know I'm an appointee, I dissipate public funds. After 4 years, I trade with it, I make my money, and when I'm called to account for it, I go into the plea bargain, I pay off, and I'm gone free. I still trade, I still enjoy the benefit that I've saved.
No, plea, it's not free. I'm saying that there's restitution.
No, you don't get what I'm saying.
Okay.
The point is that in this Chama Woundumi's case, for instance, probably if he were to be an appointee of the government, it means that we will just take the money from him. Meanwhile, he has already traded on that particular money. He's made his interest. He's made money.
But the point I'm making is, it's not just the principal you're paying. If that is an option that the court or the agreement would reflect, and doesn't set you free, there are consequences. Plea bargaining doesn't set you free.
You could still serve jail term?
Yes, but maybe a reduced jail term, but you still go to jail.
Okay.
You have to pay back with a significant interest over the period. And I'm using the case of Atu Asian, if you remember.
Yeah.
Because his proposal for a lesser interest was not accepted. Yeah. So I think that one thing I agree on is that it's important for us to educate the public to have an understanding of what this law is. Otherwise, the misconceptions would continue to fester. So let's educate the public to realize that plea bargaining is available for everybody. But you see, one thing we must speak about is that the NPP may have, others have argued that they may have passed this law in contemplation of what their appointees may be subjected to. And I have information to the effect that this Attorney General will not allow plea bargaining to be used as a tool to weaken the judicial system. It will not be allowed. This Attorney General, I know Justice Remsa, I know the Leonard Ayine. I know that there's a strong commitment at ensuring that the frontiers of justice are expanded, and that anyone that has messed up with the resources of this country will be dealt with. That's why, as we speak, strenuous efforts are being made to bring back Ken Ofori-Atta into this country to face justice. My brother speaks about a certain matter about of Opuni. Are you not aware of the facts that for 8 years your government persecuted Opuni and could get no justice? Are you not aware of that? Are you not aware that in the dying embers of your government, Justice Hoenyega, you don't remember the case of Justice Hoenyega, and then having to go back to the Supreme Court because they wanted to start the process de novo? Do you not remember the case of Gregory Afoku, where people use the judicial system as a means of punishing people? This government has departed from that. Look at what's happening with your own regional chairman, Abonye. Under the MPP, if Abonye were an NDC person, there's no way Abonye could have gotten even the bail from the court to get his passport and go out to study. This is the reforms we're talking about. We're talking about reset. We're talking about a government that's making sure that the government, the justice system is used as a tool for good and not for bad. We don't punish individuals out of political vendetta like the MPP have done. We believe that justice must be for all. If Wontumi is guilty, I tell you that Wontumi will go to jail. If he's not guilty, he'll be set free.
Why are you using
so the system?
You sat there and you said that it shows that he's guilty.
Is Wontumi in court for only the Exim matter?
No, but
are you not aware that the Sandra Boy matter is going on?
So you can't go.
Are you not aware that there's going to be a judgment
Didn't I make that distinction when I was ending my first?
Look at this.
I made that distinction that the Sandra Boy case is also there, so we shouldn't let it be out there as if.
So in the case of Sandra Boy, and I'm saying that Wontumi is not. It's not only one case that is before the court. There are other cases whose verdict we don't know. Do you know the verdict on Samre Boy? Do you? You don't. I don't. So on Samre Boy, he could go to jail or he could be declared innocent. And I'm saying that the justice system by the Attorney General of this country, who is leading the the prosecutorial powers of state, will not unduly punish anybody. Will not. The courts have been reminded of their duty to be fair. If Wontumi is guilty in the case of Samre Boy, he will go to jail. If he is not, he'll be set free, and that is good precedent because an Attorney General is not just an Attorney General, he's also a Minister of Justice. And that's why, as we speak, Abonye DC has been given his passport and he has gone abroad to school. That is better governance.
I'm coming about it.
That is better governance.
Council, now the fear after that decision was taken yesterday, or that directive or whatever.
On Abonye.
Yes, O'Brien came. The fear people raise is that we did similar thing with Ken Ofori-Atta. Maybe not almost the same, because he even left before the cases were called upon. What's the guarantee that if he leaves, he's going to come back to face some of these questions that have been raised already?
Well, there will be steps to catch it.
Because all he said is he's going to school.
He's supposed to come back by the end of this month.
Yeah.
And I'm telling that some diplomatic cables have been put in place. And of course, we have an extradition treaty with the UK.
Okay.
If for any reason Abonye chooses to betray the good faith that the government of Ghana has given him, I'm sure there will be means at which to be able to get him. That will be means. And in similar fashion, I'm told some former appointees back in this country based on by the government. The government has got the person back to face justice. And the government will stop at nothing at ensuring that Ken Ofori-Atta is dragged back into this country and that he faces justice. We must be accountable for every cedi of the Ghanaian taxpayer, and that's a commitment of this particular NDC government.
Okay, Council, thank you.
But
let's wrap up on this.
Part of the possible outcomes of plea bargain, reduce charges or sentence, you have restitution stroke fines, and then there's non-prosecution agreement. It's also there. Non-prosecution.
So these are all options.
But he's left out that there are consequences. As if every time there's plea bargain, definitely there should be some form of punishment. The Attorney General can decide that, look, I'm uninterested. Once you agree to our terms, walk away. It's also part of it. So what you say? You sat here and you said, Abronia has been given his passport to travel, and that shows that that's the reset agenda of the way our courts. The finance minister under us, he was given a fair trial. He was traveling. Atoforsin was traveling. He had his judgment, and you people celebrated. So what difference? What are you saying? When he talked about Opuni's issue, he didn't even land. He quickly jumped into other fray. Opuni's case was in court. You came and filed nolli prosequi. It's as simple as that. The case was not out of court. If the case was out of court, you wouldn't have filed nolli prosequa. So the fact that you filed tells you that the case, and you as a legal practitioner should know that they said the wheel of justice grinds slowly. Is that not it? So if a case is there for 8 years, you as a legal practitioner should know that the person's freedom is even enshrined. If they are fast-track the whole thing like the way the kangaroo courts were doing to people, you would have come to sit here today to use it as a reference point that he wasn't given a fair trial. So if an issue, there are cases that have been in court for years. We know how our court system works. So I highly suspect that you even sit here and make reference to the fact that Opunu was allowed go to court, go with his counsel, they will listen to him, he will go back home, sleep till the next date for him to appear again. Tells you the kind of court system, well, the kind of judiciary Nanado ran. He wasn't interfering with the judiciary system. Yet you ended up accusing him today. Today, what are we seeing? Aren't you arresting people anyhow? To the extent that Media Foundation is saying that your track record in 1.5 years surpasses the 8 years of Nanado. Are you happy with it as a legal practitioner?
Okay, very well. Anyway, Kamaldeen, thank you so much for reacting to that. Philemon, maybe your final words on this one. What next on this issue?
I am aware that Operation Recover All Loot will continue.
Okay.
And that all those who have depleted the resources of this country will be dealt with. There are several active cases in the office of the Attorney General. The OSP too is doing his bit. We all know the incidents of clamping down the OSP and his powers at prosecuting members of the former NPP government, of straining him with resources and all that. We know all of that. But I'm saying that the resources of this country will be committed. Part of a significant part of it, that ensuring that those that have looted the resources of this country are held accountable. In the case of Wontumi, it is now obvious. It is obvious that Chairman Wontumi has... all in all, justice will be meted out. All in all, this government will not preempt anybody's guilt. You will go through the system. And to the extent that the court would come out and establish your guilt, you go to jail. If there's going to be a plea bargaining arrangement, it will be done within the confines of the law. Nobody will be left off the hook. That, I think, would be the final comment on it.
Counsel, thank you. Philemon La is a private legal practitioner, also jumping on this particular topic with regards to the Wontumi case and issues on plea bargaining. This is the dialogue. We take a break. When we return, we talk about the FDB's projection of Ghana's economy, Ghana's growth to some 5% in 2026, but warns of major financing gap. What does that really mean? We'll find out the bottlenecks after the break. Stay with me.
Embarrassed. Too embarrassed to speak to a loved one. Too embarrassed to speak to your doctor.
Too embarrassed. When in our lifetime, 1 in 4 black men will be diagnosed with prostate cancer. 1 in 12 black men will die from prostate cancer.
Let me repeat that. 1 in 4 black men will be diagnosed with prostate cancer. 1 in 12 black men will die from prostate cancer disease.
1 in 12. That could be your dad, even your older brother, uncle, or grandfather.
You need to make sure they are not embarrassed to speak to you or their doctor about it.
Hey, Dad, have you had your prostate checked out? See? How hard is that? It's easy. Just start the conversation.
Prostate cancer is survivable if caught and treated early enough.
Don't let embarrassment stop you having this important conversation.
You may save someone's life.
Not just your own.
we can be the generation that ends it for good.
Malaria must die, so millions can live.
Gentlemen, I've got some bad news and some good news. Okay, the bad news is that your chances of getting prostate cancer are now just 7 to 1. In fact, prostate cancer is killing one man every single hour of the day in this country. Imagine that, one every hour of the day. But the good news is, we're forming a team to stop that clock. Men United. It's time men united together to fight prostate cancer, the way women have united against breast cancer. We need to get together and find a cure, as well as better ways to care for the 250,000 prostate cancer sufferers out there. Please, get on side and join us in the fight. Men United versus prostate cancer. We can win this.
Okay, next one. Sit down. Look to camera.
This is what it looks like to be exceptional, to stand out from the crowd, to make history. But what if women didn't have to be exceptional? What if they didn't have to be the first, the best, or the only woman? What if being a female engineer wasn't remarkable? What if women and men could compete as equals? I don't want to make history. I don't want to be the only woman. I want to be one of many.
All right, so welcome back. Many thanks for still staying with us right here on WoezorTV. This is the dialogue. Earlier we spoke about issues coming out from the court or the judicial system with regards to Chairman Wontumi and issues on plea bargain. But let's shift attention and talk about the economy. How well is Ghana's economy rebounding? There is a latest report from the AFDB, and they have indicated that you take a look at the outlook of Ghana's economy, it will grow at some 5%, which is good, but there seem to be some bottlenecks. Now, you look at the latest 2026 report, they mentioned that Ghana's medium-term economic outlook actually remains broadly positive, supported by improved business confidence. But they went further to indicate some of the bottlenecks, which I will establish pretty shortly. They mentioned that, you take a look at it, the high public debt levels, weak domestic revenue mobilization, and tighter global financial conditions have actually limited the country's access to long-term and affordable financing. The report further also stressed that these constraints could or would require deep structural reforms aimed at diversifying the economy, strengthening institutions, and also improving the efficiency of financial intermediation. So basically, that's what the report seek to say. But by and large, what does this really mean to Ghana's economy? Remember, in a few weeks' time, the mid-year budget review will also be presented by the finance minister, hopefully. How well can we sustain the gains chalked so far in the last 5 to 6 months? What next for Ghana's economy? And what must be done to ensure that the gains are protected and probably get more better? Joining me on phone is Dr. Domfe, who is an economist. He will share his thoughts on this particular one. Doc, thank you so much for joining us this morning. How are you, sir?
Thank you for having me. By His grace, I'm doing well.
Very well. Doc, you follow the AFDB report, which projects that the Ghana's economic growth will be 5%. That sounds very positive and very significant, but how meaningful is that growth if the country faces major financing gap, as the report even stipulated?
You were breaking. The last part of the sentence didn't sound clear to me.
So let me take it again. If you look at the reports, they mentioned that there is a 5% growth, which is significant, which is a positive one. But I'm saying that how meaningful will this growth be if the country indeed will face major financing gaps, as stated again in that particular report?
Thank you very much, and let me say very good morning to listeners and viewers. Yes, you are very right about Ghana's growth. In fact, our growth has remained very phenomenal since 1983. I think the lowest growth rate we had was in 1983 when we had negative growth rate. You know, earlier, somewhere in 1925, we recorded the worst ever over negative 12% growth rate. And 1981, 82, 83, we still recorded negative growth rates. And since 1983, I must say everything has been positive. The lowest growth rate in 1983 we had was 2020 COVID year, and the economy grew 0.5%. It was positive, but not so far away from what I would say negative. And since then, we've been doing very well. The economy has shown remarkable resilience when it comes to growth. The entire economy is not resilient, but when it comes to growth, I think we are doing well. And the growth is not an end in itself; it's a sufficient, means to the end. You know, if you really want to get there, you must grow. And so we are growing. Yeah, but there are, behind the growth are many other things that the economy hasn't been able to address. Significantly among it is the incessant recording of fiscal deficit. We've always been spending more than we are able to rake in as revenue. And that is why almost every year we have to borrow. Indeed, if you look at budget of 2018, in the preamble, we were told that Ghana was recording the first positive primary balance in 15 years. That was 2017. So Ghana recorded the first positive primary balance in 15 years in 2017. That is to suggest that almost always we were consuming more than we were spending more than we were raking in as revenue. If you put aside all interest payments, you know, and so what it means is that anytime Ghana government prepares a budget, the total expenditure is divided into two. One is what has already been spent, you know, payment on what has already been spent. So we've taken loans and all that, and you need to set aside part of the money you have money to, rake in to pay what you have already consumed. And then another part of it is to spend on what you are consuming today. And so if you set aside what you have already consumed and you want to compare how much you have raked in, whether it is more than what you are currently spending, then that is what is called primary balance. I'm saying that for 15 good years to the year 2017, we were recording negative primary balance, to suggest that aside from what was needed as interest payment, what we were currently even consuming, we could not generate enough to meet it. That meant that we were borrowing to pay what we have already spent, and at the same time borrowing to supplement what we are currently spending. Anytime you record negative primary balance, of course, 2017, 2018, 2019, we have positive primary balance, and so in that way, it meant that if ever we borrowed, it was to pay what we have already consumed. But from 2020 coming, things started going bad again, and we started recording negative primary balance until the year 2024. So all those years, we were recording negative primary balance. Anytime you record negative primary balance, it means you are borrowing to cover what you are consuming today, and you're also borrowing to pay what you have already consumed. And with that, you will be accumulating more debt. And that was one of the reasons why in the year 2021, we were the country was plunged into debt, crisis. Indeed, I should say it started from 2020. 2020, debt to GDP ratio went all the way to 76.1. A year earlier, we were doing 62.5. And if your debt to GDP ratio is 62.5, it is sustainable if you use West African convergence criteria. The West African convergence criteria stipulates that if your debt to GDP ratio is below 70%, then that debt is sustainable. Once it goes beyond 70%, it becomes unsustainable. And when your debt is unsustainable, what it means is that you struggle to service your debt. And in trying to do so, you compromise on what the basic needs of life for the citizens. In other words, you can't control the road people need. You can't build hospitals people need. You can't build schools people need. But all that you get, you are using it to pay back what you have already consumed. That means your debt has become unsustainable. And indeed, Ghana's debt was unsustainable in the years 2020, 2021, 2022. And because of that, we were not allowed to go to the capital market. The economy was downgraded to the junk status. And when you are downgraded to the junk status, you become credit unworthy. What it means is that you have been given a red flag telling the whole world that this particular country, if you give them loan, they are not in a position to pay back. And so that was why immediately there was a need for the country to do what became known as debt restructuring. At that time, at the end of 2021, our debt situation had gone up all the way to $61 billion US. And in terms of debt to GDP ratio, it had gone up to over 78%. I'm talking about 2021. So our debt was unsustainable. And immediately, what the then government did, led by Ken Ofori-Atta, was to do debt restructuring. Debt restructuring really meant that you are not in a position to pay your creditors. And so you are going to beg them either to slash off what you owe them or to negotiate to make the debt payment flexible. And indeed they did that. They started with Eurobond. The first time Ghana went to European bond market for loan was in the year 2007. And so most of what we have taken since have been matured. And what we were doing at the time was always go back to the Eurobond market to raise bond to pay what was matured. And so the year 2021, when we were not allowed to go there, it became a problem. It became a problem. So clearly, the government at that time faced two double problems. Number one, what was outstanding, they were not in position to pay. And what we needed to spend, they were not in position to raise enough revenue to cover that. And so it was a problem. But through the debt restructuring led by Ken Ofori-Atta, the $13.1 billion that the country was owing to the European bond market was subjected to 37% haircut treatment. In other words, 4.7 billion of that debt was cancelled. Not only that, after cancelling, then they made projections that whatever that is due, that we have to pay from 2022, 2023, we are postponing it to years beyond 2026. And so, you see, I've been telling you.
So Doc, you land on that for me.
Yes.
Doc, land on that for me.
Yes. So I've been telling people that most of what we are seeing today is because of the debt restructuring.
Okay.
2027 is not going to be rosy. That's why I said all this to confirm the report that you just talked about. Because most of what was suspended, that has given us that huge fiscal space. From 2027, Ghana should prepare to pay. Or maybe we now have to renegotiate again with them. Otherwise, from 2027, we're going to struggle. There's no doubt about this. And so sometimes when I hear people talk as if we are out there, it makes me think, what data are they using? We are not there because what you were supposed to pay, most of what you were supposed to pay was postponed because of the debt restructuring. Apart from the debt, some of them, being slashed off. You have also been given that briefing space that what you were supposed to pay, please, we are not going to collect it, but prepare yourself to begin the payment after 2027. And so it was because of all these, that's why immediately we went to at IMF for the last 36 months. We were there with them. They also helped us, and things are getting better. But you see, the red flag is still there. The economy is still vulnerable. In terms of revenues, we are not doing so well. Last year, we couldn't meet our target. And this year, during the first quarter of the year, we still could not meet our target. So what it means is that in terms of revenue, we are not being able to rake in enough to cover up our needs. And that means that we still would have to borrow, even to cover up our needs today. And so in 2027, what we were supposed to pay that has been postponed for the last 3 years, 4G, then the country, will be back to crisis.
Doc, thank you. Thank you for that in-depth analysis on this particular topic. We are grateful for your time this morning. Well, viewers, that's Dr. George Domfe. He's an economist. He's jumped onto this particular one. But in studio, I still have Kamaldeen here. I'll just throw the question and I'll take it from where Dr. Domfe mentioned it. And he was so appreciative of the fact that the debt restructuring changed a lot of the narrative. And it is the dividend that we are witnessing or benefiting today. But if you look at it carefully, Kamaldeen, banks and financial institutions suffered heavy losses because of the debt restructuring program. You can also talk about the pension funds, the insurance companies, and asset managers were all affected. So how then do we draw the conclusion and say that indeed that really helped sanitize the system and that's the dividend we are enjoying now? But you look at also the projections that the African Development Bank is putting out there. Good projections, but how do we achieve and sustain the gains made?
You see, I have this AFDB projects 4.5% GDP growth for Ghana in 2025. So that was 2025. They projected. And do you know what they used to say this? According to the AFDB, Ghana's projected growth in 2025 will be driven by strong activity in the mining sector. In the mining sector. So basically all other sectors are struggling. Because the president made us to know that we buy 60% of the gold from the small scale miners. And according to this report, I've forgotten, is it the Mineral Commission or so? I've forgotten. They said many of our small scale miners are those involved in Galamsey. And 60% of our gold. And the president told us that whether we like it or we have to buy, because after all, it is from our land that they've dug this gold. When the NDC took power, we started hearing Ato is forcing, Ato is forcing. So when I see people trying to make reference to the past, again, then I begin asking that, if when you came into power, some of the positive indicators, you didn't attribute it to the previous government, you assume. Governance is a continuum. Assets and liabilities you take. Yeah. When President Nana came, there were other liabilities he took upon himself. He never complained. So we just expect that 1.5 years getting into 2 years, the excuses are becoming one too many. Of what benefit would it be? I believe we are well versed with this Bible verse that says, what shall it profit a man to gain the whole world and lose his soul? What would it profit Ghana's economy to be growing and yet we'll still be facing minor challenges? If I say minor, the finance minister made it public that he's borrowing to pay salaries. He said it. An economy that is growing, yet you have to borrow to pay salary. That's a huge statement. Show me which case that the finance minister is saying that about 70%, you have to borrow about 70% to pay salaries. Show me previously what was pertaining. Even the challenge economy that they normally refer us to wasn't borrowing to pay salaries. So let's just be making the decision. You see, you can run governance with propaganda to a certain extent. At the point, it will hit the snag. And that is one reality that this government has not come to terms with. They still feel like they can still be using rhetorics and propaganda to have their way through. Now the reality is biting. Just yesterday or so, people had free SHS supplies, had to picket at the Ministry of Education for their monies to be paid. This is the reality. If economy was to be growing, they would have felt it. The amount would have been paid. We are here. Ministries are fighting among themselves because the finance minister is strangling them. Greek is saying that you've given me 12%. Finance is saying, no, I've given you 85%. You come to education. Minister of Education told that he was going to recruit 50,000 teachers and 10,000 non-teaching staff. He came back to tell us that it's the Minister of Finance who is not giving him the financial clearance. So he's handicapped. He has to recruit around 7,000. Even the 7,000, people had to go and they're telling it as view one's application, including that of the nursing. You go, they say they've opened portal, in less than 30 minutes, they tell you they have hit the 7,000 quota. I mean, you want to tell me 7,000 people were able to fill online application within minutes? Where in other areas we have difficulty, people complain of difficulty in accessing the internet. These are the challenges facing. School fees are increasing by day. People unable to, hostel fees that people were paying about 5,000 or so under the previous government. Now people are paying 6,000, 7,000. School fees has moved from 1,600 to about 2,500. These are the realities people are facing.
But Kamal, you look at the indicators, for instance, and I'm looking at it from this angle. As of December 2024, right, we had inflationary rate at 23.8%. Now, you look at December 2025, it was brought down all the way to 5.4%, the lowest rate since the 2021 CPI rating. So, of course, you would say that there seem to be some significant strides.
So
do you still disagree?
You explain to viewers what kind of inflation you have at 23%, and I was paying utilities at say 500 cedis. You bring it down to 3.5% now, and I'm paying 1,000. What kind of inflation is that? Airfares that used to, I will not even use airfare. It might be for the affluent in society. Let me even put it that way. The VIP buses and the OA buses that people used to pay 90 Ghana cedis to Kumasi today are paying 150 at an inflation of 3.5. So what kind of inflation is that? Inflation, at least per my basic understanding, the rate at which prices of things are increasing should be minimal, because compared to what is the fuel price? When inflation was at 23, dollar was at 14. Fuel prices was left at, for this government at 14. Today, go to some of the filling stations and see. We are buying diesel at 17, some are 16.9. With your dollar at 11, and now it's hitting 12. So how do you convince the ordinary Ghanaian who was paying school fees of 1,600 at an inflation of 23 and comes to pay 2,500 at an inflation of 3.5? So it tells you that there's a disconnect. Today, open your phone lines. When people go to the market, they see increases in their prices. Nobody will tell you that I've gone and then things are prices of goods are reducing on the market. Spare parts. Drivers almost increase their prices. It has to take negotiations for them. Why? The reason why, one of the reasons they ascribed to was simply because prices of fuel have increased. And if you increase prices of fuel, you know there's rippling effect. It will touch everything. So sometimes that's why the last time I think
the argument people make is that the argument people make is that we might not necessarily be seeing the turnaround in a very speedy manner, but stability-wise, we have experienced or witnessed some stability. You talk about the currency, for instance. I mean, it's been stabilized for a while.
You see, you had people who came into power within 3 to 4 months. They started touting themselves as having the magic wand suddenly. So 1.5 years should be enough. If you have inflation dropping and it's not impacting in the lives of the people, that's why I ask you, what shall it profit a man to gain the whole world and lose his soul? What does it profit for Ghanaians to be having downward inflation, and yet they are not having the impact? And how do you convince me, the ordinary Ghanaian, that if a bottle of water I was buying at say 2 cedis 50 pesos, I'm not buying it at 4 cedis? What kind of inflation is that? Your rate of inflation from 2 cities at least marginally should have moved to about maybe 270 or 3 cities, marginally. But if it jumps from 2 cities, 50% to 4 cities, that is not in consonance with your inflation. Okay. And these are the realities on the ground. Parents who are paying school fees are complaining. Parents who are paying hostel fees are complaining. People at home, you are unable to recruit them. Economy that is growing is by now, we are supposed to be seeing growth in industries, growth in employment rate. We shouldn't rather be seeing a reverse of it. Now unemployment rate is increasing with growth in the economy. So if one day I think you need to put Ato Forcing here to explain what kind of inflation, because he's the one they are saying Ato is forcing. Now suddenly that cliche has vanished. Ato is no more forcing or what? And you have now cabinet ministers fighting in public because all of them are getting choked. So they have to speak out. They can no more wait for Thursdays for them to go for cabinet meetings to speak. Immediately, let me speak and let it be known to people. And you know some of the sectors of economy that are very critical. Agric is one. What's the name? Education, health, interior. These are key sectors. And almost all of them are complaining. Interior himself is unable to recruit. It took the intervention of the president to ask him to add about 20,000 more people to be recruited. Over 500,000 people applied. It tells you the growing unemployment rate in the country. So the inflation should just simply reflect in the pocket of Ghanaians.
Very well. Kamaldeen, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
We'll do this again some other time.
I'll be available.
I hear you're a very strong fan of Wezor anyway. Thank you so much for coming.
Why not? You're a media house, and I enjoy being here. This is my first time, and definitely I enjoy being here.
Very well. Thank you so much for coming as well. Anyway, here we draw curtains on today's edition of the Dialogue. Many thanks to you for watching. Thanks to the crew for helping put this one together. But of course, we are in that fever. What fever am I talking about? The World Cup. Yes, we started on a very good note. We will continue on that good note and end on that good note. So trust us for experts. And yes, we are live on free to air. And so let me put it clear, because the bashings we keep receiving from last night till now, it's actually on free to air. Yes, free to air. Yes, it's a strict instruction from the organizer. So please, free to air. You catch all the updates, right? In studio discussions, all the highlights, the background stories and what have you. The team has a lot in stock for you this particular season. All you need to do is, Charlie, grab some nice popcorn and Coca-Cola or Fanta, stay in your room and enjoy all the games on your TV set. Kind Kasi, WoezorTV will go all out for you. So indeed, brace up. The weekend is already here. Stay at home and enjoy. The rains definitely will come. The projections they gave us from the beginning of the week still stands. So please, remember, if you have to go out, go early and do whatever you have to do and come back. Remember, if you are also out already and it starts raining, find a safe haven and hide. Protect yourself and also stay safe out of, stay safe once you step out there. My name is Randy Ahadzi. It's a weekend. Let's meet again next week. It's a wrap for now.